Your neighbor, she broke her ankle. Goldberg.
Yeah.
I saw her. Oh, yeah.
Now it's already healing. Now it's already
Now she's
talking about mitzvah tonight.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Boker Tov, welcome everybody, and we're up to the bottom words of Daf Dalet Amud Beis. And instead of the mission, what you're allowed to do on Chol HaMoed, then it says Metaknin et es kilkulei hamayim shebeshus harabim. Rashi over here says, Rashi in the mission didn't explain. The reading of Rashi over here says Kigon avanim shenaflu machmas habor. So Rashi says that the word kilkulei seems to be that Rashi seems to say that's the kilkul. Something about water. It doesn't say what kind of water, but some kind of water that was broken, water pipe. It seems to be. And they learned that Rashi means to say that it's a pipe for clean water or some kind of a channel, a canal for clean water, and it broke. So it became mikol kal. You're allowed to fix it. Is it just the interesting shot from the Ritva that he says kilkulei hamayim, metaktin kilkulei hamayim, you're allowed to fix not the broken pipes of water, but the word kilkulei hamayim is the kind of a pipe. It's like a sewage pipe. That's why it's called kilkulei hamayim. It stands away the dirty water, and you're allowed to fix it. Of course, it's broken. If it says metaktin, that means you're allowed to fix it. But the point would be, what's the problem? That if it's a sewage pipe and it breaks, so then it makes the whole street disgusting. So you're allowed to fix the sewage pipes. Rashi says the word kilkulei means that it's broken, but it doesn't say what is broken. Mayim, something about some kind of water channel, a water container. But I don't know if there's any halacha difference. So the Gemara says in the Mishnah, this etc. It says in the Mishnah, you're allowed to be chotet. The word chotet means the way the Art Scroll translated was to clear it out, to clean it out, which is a good for our purposes. That's on Chol HaMoed, right? That you're allowed to. There are these public sewage pipes or water pipes, and it got broken. You're allowed to fix it on Chol HaMoed. And the issue of the Rabbim, Bishus Rabbim, means that it's something communal. It's Tzarchei Rabbim. So that's going to be the issue of our Gemara. And the word chatita usually means digging out, but in our Gemara there's going to be a contrast between the word chatita and chafira. So chafira means digging out, means for the first time, and chatita means to clean it out. To clean out, it got filled, like Rashi says, it fell in with avanim. And like we see also that our sewages also have to be cleaned out once in a while. I don't know, once a year. They come with these trucks and or sometimes manually, they take out all of the accumulated debris that's there. So that's in our Gemara, the issue is going to be chatita and chafira, cleaning out. And we'll use that word for the word chatita. I don't know if it's a literal word, I don't think so. But for our purposes, that's good. Chatita means to clear out, and chafira would mean to dig it out for the first time, to dig out some kind of a canal. So in our Mishnah says that this top line is more or less our Mishnah, that it says,
just in terms of Paish words, chatata is like on the head shampooing and things of the chatitas, not acquainted with it. Okay, fine. I'm fine.
I'm trying to remember the word that you're referring to, but I don't. It's not coming to me. But as far as here, it doesn't mean that. Here means something about clearing out, digging out. I don't think it's the same word. I remember there's such a word that you're referring to, but I don't.
Begadish is the same word.
No, chotet would be good. Yeah, chotet begadish. That would be the same one. But then the one that's something about the head, cleaning the head, that's something else. The chatat and shabirosha, that's not the same word then. That's going to be a different word. Okay, yashikah. So in our Mishnah says that you're allowed to clear out let's go to the sewage pipes, and you want to clear out the solas that gathered over there, that you're allowed to do. But the diak is chafira lo. The fact that it says you're only allowed to clean it out, that would sound like you're not allowed to dig it out. You're not allowed to dig out for the first time to dig it. And that's going to be our whole sugya, chatita and chafira. Our Mishnah says you're allowed to clear it out, but you're not allowed to dig it out. I'm Rabbi Yaakov, I'm Rabbi Yochanan. Lo shanu b'alashen rabban tzrichim lehem, al rabban tzrichim lehem, afilu chafira mutter. He says a leniency that the Amish only permits you to clean it out, to clear it out, but he says that's only if they don't need it. It means they don't need it for Chol HaMoed. But if on Chol HaMoed they need it, then you're even allowed to dig it out also. A leniency. Right, that's going to be the two words of chotet and chofer. So even though the Mishnah only says chatita, that's because they don't need it. They're rabbim, it's a communal thing, but they don't need it for Chol HaMoed. But if they need it for Chol HaMoed, they're even allowed to dig out also. I just want to make a little bit of a hagdama. There are three brises coming up. I just follow them in different colors just to point out the three brises. The first one is in green, the second one in blue, the third one in pink. Three different brises, and the Gemara is going to try to reconcile all of them. I have a small chart, maybe just as akdama, maybe it'll help, a small chart. I hope that'll be helpful. And let's try to see if we can get it on. Is I hope okay, if it's not clear, I made it only in Hebrew, not in English. I didn't have a chance to make it in English, but I hope that'll be helpful. So far, we have the Mishnah and Rabbi Yochanan. The Mishnah says that sewage pipes that got stuffed up, you're allowed to clear them out on Chol HaMoed. Rabbi Yochanan added on that if the Rabban Tzrichim them, if it's necessary for Chol HaMoed, even not allowed to dig it out also. Not only to clear it out, even not allowed to dig. There's going to be 3 brises now, and the Gemara is going to try to make seder out of the 3 brises. The first brise, just to get a general preview, the first brise says that both the Yachid and the Rabbim, the practice are going to be if it's private or public, clearing and digging, and if you need it on Chol HaMoed or not. Those are going to be the 3 factors we're going to juggle with. The first, there are 3 brises here. The first brise says that both the Yachid and the Rabbim are allowed to clear out the pipes, but a Rabbim and even a Yachid are not allowed to dig. That's one brisa. That there's no difference between a Yachid and a Rabbim l'chora. Both of them are allowed to clear it out, but you're not allowed to dig out. Second brisa and the third brisa, they say difference between a Yachid and a Rabbim. The first brisa is more stringent. Second one seems to be more lenient. The Gemara is going to say at the end, nothing's arguing. But the way the brisa number 2 says is that a Yachid, you're not allowed to even clear out, nothing. And by a Rabbim, they're allowed to dig out, clear out, but they're not allowed to dig. And the third brisa says, lenient, that the Yachid is allowed to clear out, but not to dig, and the Rabbim is even allowed to dig out. So everything seems like a big mess over here. Everything seems to say something else. So the Gemara is going to start, and the Gemara is going to try to find, to reconcile everything, and Rabbi Yochanan is going to be right, the way it says that if they need it, if the Rabbim needs it, even allowed to dig. The Gemara first asks the
Rabbi Yochanan doesn't say anything about the Yachid?
Right. Rabbi Yochanan didn't say anything about a Yachid. He just said that the Mishnah also doesn't talk about a Yachid. The Mishnah says B'shus Rabbim, and it says you're allowed to clear it out. Rabbi Yochanan says that if they need it for Chol HaMoed, even allowed to dig. The Gemara is an Esakash from the Brisa. Here it says no difference between a Yachid and a Rabbim. They're allowed to clear. They're not allowed to dig. That's the first kasha. So we'll jump to the Gemara. I hope that this is a kind of a preview. I hope that it'll be clear from the Gemara itself. So we had Rabbi Yochanan so far. He's in the yellow when he says that if the Rabbim need it, they're even allowed to dig. The Gemara is the kasha. And if they do need it for Chol HaMoed, then you're allowed to dig. But Tanya, the Brisa says that there's no difference between a Yachid and a Rabbim. Only allowed to clear. You're not allowed to dig. It says that you're allowed to clear out the ditches, pits, whatever, different kinds of receptacles of water, different kinds of shapes of boros, that even of a Yachid and surely from a Rabbim. So it's what it says so far, that you're allowed to clear it out. But then it says, Ein chofen boros shichin amora shel Rabbim, but you're not allowed to dig. And even if it's a Rabbim, you're not allowed to dig. And surely if it's a Yachid, you're not allowed to dig. So that seems to be against Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says that sometimes you are allowed to dig. The Brisa says you're not allowed to dig. And if we take it as a blanket statement, it means that you're never allowed to dig, even if it's a Rabbim. Isn't that even if the Rabbim need it for Chol HaMoed, and it's against Rabbi Yochanan? So no problem. Lo, b'shein Rabbim tzrichim lehem. That's not a problem. Rabbi Yochanan would say the Brisa is talking about if you don't need it. If you don't need it for Chol HaMoed, that's why the Mishnah says only chotet. I also agree. I only said that if they need it for Chol HaMoed, then you're allowed to dig. But if they don't need it for Chol HaMoed, then you're allowed to clear it out. So the Brisa that says that the Rabbim is not allowed to dig, it's talking about you don't need it. But then the Gemara that triggers a problem then. The Chavasa, if you're going to learn the Brisa, this Brisa in green, if you're going to say it's talking about that they don't need it for Chol HaMoed, but the Brisa says that the Yachid, no difference in Yachid and a Rabbim, the Yachid is allowed to clear it out. But I'm going to bring you a Brisa now that it's not true, that if the Yachid does not need it, then he's not allowed to even dig, because the Brisa says, the next Brisa, is going to say, Lo chotetin. It doesn't say if you need it, you don't need it. It just says that there's a case that it says that a Yachid is not allowed to even clear it out. It says, Kons and Mayim l'sochan. You could fill it up with water. That you're allowed to do in Chol HaMoed. It's already dug out. You're allowed to fill it up with water, but you can't dig it out. You can't clear it out even if it's, so it says something about a Yachid, you can't clear. Below Shafin Esetkein, you're not allowed to rub if there's a crack, you're not allowed to fill in the crack to make it smooth. You can't smoothen out these cracks. And if it belongs to a community, it's a Rabbim, then you are allowed to clear it out, and you're allowed to fill in and clear the cracks. That's not our subject so much, but here it says that a Yachid is not allowed to be chotet, and a Rabbim at most is allowed to be chotet. So if you say before that it's talking about that the Yachid does not need it, this Brisa seems to say if the Yachid doesn't need it, something's also even to be chotet. So we'd rather say that this brisa before is talking about that the yachid does need it. In order to answer the contradiction, we'll say that the blue brisa over here is talking about that he doesn't need it. So then he can't do anything, not even lo chotetin. And this brisa says that the yachid may be chotet is talking about he does need it. But then the dominoes is going to go that a rabbim is not allowed to be chofer even if he needs it. Kashan of Yochanan. So the Gemara continues. So you want to say that this first brisa is talking about that the yachid does need it. That's why he's allowed to be chotet, and the rabbim is still not allowed to be chofer. Means you think you have a kasha against Rabbi Yochanan, and the rabbim is never allowed to be chofer even if they need it. Now we have a brisa that seems to be beferish like Rabbi Yochanan. This last brisa, the one in pink over here, is like Rabbi Yochanan. But Tanya Borash Shechan and Morash Shel Yachid. I should have done more over here. Let me just fill it in now if I missed it. Okay, so here it says that if it belongs to a yachid, so then you're allowed to fill it up with water. That's fine, and you're even allowed to be chotet, but you're not allowed to smoothen out the cracks. Below chotet, this they take out these words. They take out these words below chotet. They say the gears is not good. Take out the below chotet and the sochan. They take it out. Below sadunos and besid, and you're not allowed to plaster it if it belongs to the yachid. V'shel rabbim chofer nosan, v'sadunos and besid. If it belongs to the rabbim, you are allowed to dig out and also plaster it. But what's the get to us that you wanted to say Yochanan is wrong and that the rabbim is never mutter to dig even if they need it. This brisa says perish like a Yochanan that chofer nosan. Elakashach kamaisa. So the problem is the first brisa. The green brisa is the problem. Means the second brisa, the second and the third brisa. We're going to say that the second brisa is talking about that they don't need it for Chol HaMoed. So therefore, the Yachid cannot even be Chotet, and the Rabbim could be Chotet. And the third brisa is talking about that they do need it for Chol HaMoed, so the Yachid is allowed to be Chotet, and the Rabbim is even allowed to be Chofer. Let's go back to the other.
To smoothing out.
What?
Chotet is smoothing.
Chotet is to clear out the garbage that's inside, to clear out all the psol that's got inside. Just to go, I think maybe for a second, maybe it'll be 1 second. Maybe it'll be helpful to see the chart makes it. I think just takes out all of the other words. The second brisa, without putting out the second brisa says that the yachid is not allowed to even be chotet. The rabbim can only be chotet to clear it. And the third brisa says that the yachid is allowed to be chotet and the rabbim is allowed to be chofer, even allowed to dig it. Those two brises wouldn't be a problem. We does say that this is talking about when they don't need it. If they don't need it on Chol HaMoed, yachid can't do anything. The rabbim could just clear it out, and that's going to be the mission also. The rabbim could be clear it out. But if they do need it, like Rabbi Yochanan says, then the yachid is even allowed to be chotet, and the rabbim could even be chofer. Everything will be good. But the first brisa was confusing because the first brisa says there's no difference between the yachid and the rabbim. They're only allowed to be chotet, and they're not allowed to be chofer. So this brisa is the problematic brisa. And now the Gemara is going to do some surgery on this brisa in order to make everything reconciled. It's going to say that this first is talking about that if the yachid does need it. If he does need it, he's allowed to be chotet, and surely the rabbim, and throw in, and the rabbim is even allowed to be chofer. You have to, if he wants to make a surgery over here, that the first line of the brisa is talking about that they do need it, and the second line of the brisa is talking about that they don't need it. It's not the regular reading, but in order to reconcile everything, a yachid, if he needs it for Chol HaMoed, he's allowed to be chotet, and surely a rabbim could even be chofer. And if they don't need it, then the rabbim is not allowed to be chofer, and surely not a yachid, because the yachid is not allowed to even be chotet. That's what the Gemara is going to do to reconcile everything, and that's going to be the maskana. So if we go to the Gemara again. So the first brisa is the problem. So explain the brisa the following way. If the yachid needs it, the rabbim needs it, then you're allowed to be chotet. And the kolshken, surely the rabbim is allowed, even the yachid is allowed to be chotet to clear out if he needs it to Chol HaMoed. And the rabbim surely is allowed to. That like throw that in also. If they stick that in, that the rabbim is even mutter to do more. It's even allowed to dig it out also if they need it for Chol HaMoed. But the brisa continues. Ein chofen bo shichan amor shel rabbim when b'she ein rabbim tzrichim lahem. Vein tzarich lahem shel yachid yein yachid tzarich lahem afilu chatit anami yasa. That if they don't need it for Chol HaMoed, so then the rabbim is not allowed to be chofer, and surely the yachid is not allowed to be chofer. If the yachid doesn't need it, he's not allowed to even be chotet, and the rabbim would be allowed to be chotet. So everything's really simple. It comes out that if the rabbim has a leniency that the yachid doesn't have, well, one notch up. If they don't need it, so then the yachid cannot do anything, and the rabbim is allowed to be chotet to clear out the garbage, but you can't dig out for the first time to dig it out. And that's if they do need it for Chol HaMoed, so then the Yachid would allow to be Chotet, and the Rabbim would even allow to be Chofer. And that's the Maskana, that's the halacha. And the point is to say, just the application, maybe this application doesn't apply to us. Two conditions in order to do something on Chol HaMoed. It has to be a Ma'aseh Hediot, it has to be an unprofessional, unskilled act, not professional, amateurish, and also only if he needs it for the Moed. Two conditions in order to do it. The Rabbim gets a leniency that either one of them is good enough. That if it's a Tzarech Moed, if it's not, even if it's not a Tzarech Moed, they're allowed to do a Ma'aseh Hediot. You could do something unprofessional, even if they don't need it for the Moed. But if they do need it for the Moed, even allowed to do a Ma'aseh Moed. They even a Ma'aseh Moed. We could even, it's also Meduik in our mission like that, because it says, Ostin called Sachi Rabin. It says you're allowed to do, besides all other things, it gives a whole list of things that you're allowed to do, then it says you're allowed to do all kinds of public needs. Why does that word call? You have to do everything. Called Sachi Rabin. Isn't it coming to say what you said of Yochanan, the other brisa, that even allowed to dig it, not only to be chotet, even though the brisa says v'choteteno son, but the fact that it says called Sachi Rabin is coming to say even allowed to be chofer also. The more tries to get out of it. Well, maybe the mission doesn't mean to add on that you're allowed to be chofer. Lasu Heretanya, Yotzim Lekavitz Esadrachim, or the Fakin Esarchovos, as throughout the Os. They go out, the Rabbim, the community goes out to take off the thorns, to clear away the thorns off the roads, and to fix the town square and throughways, is throughout those, the big throughways, the Lamodas HaMikvos, and to measure the mikvos, to make sure that the mikvos have 40 saw. They check the mikvah, that's not 40 saw, so they bring water in, they put water in, of course not shuvin, whatever, they do it in a halachically good way, that it should be filled to make sure the mikvahs are kosher. How do you know? What's the source that if they didn't do what they're supposed to do, they were irresponsible and they didn't take care of the roads, they didn't take care of the mikvahs? So then the pasuk says, considers it as if they spilled the blood. That it's your guilt. The blood is on your hands. I think that David Digmar is referring to the drash we had in Megillah that the word damim, Begal said to David, sometimes it means bloodshed, sometimes it means dam nida. Here also that mikvos, if the mikvos are not kosher and the rabbim didn't take care of it, the people, each person can't go to measure if it's 40 saw. It's supposed to be by the community is supposed to take care of it. So if the mikvos were not checked that they're kosher, so the dam nida is their fault. And also the roads, if the roads were not cleared in a way that people had damage, they might have gotten killed also if the roads were not clear. So that's going to be the fault of the community that didn't take care of it. Just Agav, you see that the Gemara is saying mamash responsibility to take care of the simple things like the roads and the other kinds of halachic things that should be done. So the community has a responsibility that they should have people that are taking care and inspecting whatever has to be taken care of. Anyway, what is the Gemara trying to say from all this? That maybe Rav Ashi's diak is not a good diak. Rav Ashi wanted to say, since it says also called Sachi Rabim, that sounds like even coming to say a lot of bichofer, these sewage pipes that got broken. And the Rabbim, if they need it for Chol HaMoed, even not if they get broken, even for the first time, they're allowed to dig it out. So, but the Gemara said, no, maybe it's coming to tell you these other kinds of things that the Rabbim has to do, all called Sachi Rabim. Maybe it's not a raya to what we wanted to say. But the Gemara says, no, that's not true. It says all down the Mishnah. The Mishnah says all these things about fixing the roads and the rechov, the town square, and the mikvos. So the Mishnah doesn't have to have the word Osin Kol Sachi Rabim in order to include that. Kol Sachi Rabim Lasuya Mai, Lasuya Chafir Rosh Ramina. So the Gemara thinks that is a good proof that the Chafir would be mutter, even to be Chofer would be mutter if the Rabbim needs it on Chol HaMoed. So it might have been a bit of intricate sugya to juggle everything, but the halacha seems pretty clear that the Tzarchi Rabbim, if they need it for Chol HaMoed, even allowed to do a Ma'aseh Uman, they're allowed to do even professional work if the Rabbim needs it for Chol HaMoed. If they don't need it for Chol HaMoed, then they're allowed to do the Ma'aseh Hediot, the amateurish kind of fixing up, even if they don't need it for the Moed. And a Yachid, the regular individual, he has to have both conditions in order to do Malacha, only a Ma'aseh Hediot, only a Tzarech HaMoed. It has to be amateurish thing, not a professional act, a skill, and only if he needs it for the Moed. If that's good, the
conclusion of the three brises.
Yes, yeah, nobody's arguing, everybody agrees. Shmuel said so, the brisa said so, and the first brisa, which was confusing, we had to do some surgery in order to explain it, but we got through, and everybody agrees. The next thing the Mishnah said, Messiah the Sakor, she's supposed to mark the graves in order to know where the tumah is. And the Gemara is going to bring many, many sources. All of these green highlighted is all the psukim the Gemara is going to bring as a source or remez that you're supposed to mark the graves to know where the tumah is, and that the kohanim shouldn't go on a place which is tumah. They have to know where the graves are. So that's why they make a marker. The word tziyun is a marker. Like the word also nowadays, the word tziyun, a mark on a test, is called a tziyun. Mitzuyan means outstanding. So that's what the word mitzayin means to mark. Where is there a source, a remez, a hint that you're supposed to mark the graves? Just to point out that what they call, they think that they call it tzion. That tzion, when you're going to a tzion, a summit at the tombstone, it's called a tzion. A tzion really means a marker. It means a marker. That's what the word is. It means a place to know that the grave is there. And the word tzion is a different word altogether. I think the word tzion is not tziyun. It's Sion. So I think that it's a different word, and maybe there's some connection, but it isn't the same word. So the Gemara is going to bring many sources. As in the Torah, even though many of the psukim are not going to be psukim in the Torah, it's going to be from the Nevi'im. So it's not mamish from the Torah. Talmud Lomar, the raw etzem adam uvana etzlo Sion. Here it says the pasuk in Yecheskel. It says that there's going to be dead people. Over there, it's talking about I think Chamas Gog and Magog. And they're going to see, people inspecting to see bone, to find the bones. They're going to see the bones, and they're going to make a marker over there. Then later on it says that other people are going to come to collect the bones and to bury them. So you have the point that when there's a bone, you're supposed to make a mark in order to know that it's there.
But this is from pasuk in Yecheskel.
Yes.
So the Gemara addressed in a Torah.
Right, so I said that it's not helpful. Maybe there's a better answer than that. I don't know. This has an aside. It's looking Taisus of Basra. Maybe that's what he talks about. I don't know. Okay. So the Gemara has a problem that it's only pasuk in Yecheskel and it's not a pasuk in the Torah. So that's this point that it's not a pasuk in the Torah. So you bring me a pasuk in Yecheskel. Is that a good source? Who said it before Yecheskel? Yecheskel can't come in Mechadish Anu Halacha. So he told him back, according to your reasoning, that you think that whenever you have pasuk in Yecheskel and it's not a pasuk in the Torah, like what happened? The Avchista said the following thing we don't see in the Torah, only from Yecheskel. It says, that anybody who's a ben nechor, which means erel leib or erel basa, either he's a apikorus, erel leib, a stuffed up heart, or stuffed up flesh, which means that he wasn't circumcised, he shouldn't come to the mikdash. So where does it say that in the Torah? It's a pasuk in Yecheskel that orel, both the apikorus and the erel basa are uncircumcised, is not allowed to come to the mikdash. Where does it say that? Before Yecheskel came, who said this halacha? You don't find pasuk in the Torah. That till then it was halacha Moshe Sinai. Means there is oral law that it doesn't have any hint in the Torah. That's called halacha Moshe Sinai. If you have a pasuk, a drasha, even if it's not a pasuk pshat, but it's a drasha, that's called a drasha. If you have no drasha, that's halacha Moshe Sinai. There are some things that have no remez in the Torah. It's just oral law. So he says, so if you have no pasuk, so then it was halacha Moshe Sinai. Then Yecheskel came and he put it into the pasuk to be a remez in the pasuk. So no problem. Here the same thing. That until Yecheskel came, it was just the oral law. Allah Moshe Sinai. And Yecheskel came, you put it into the pasuk, and now we have a remez. So we see it's supposed to mark grave. That was the first pasuk. Now the Gemara is going to bring many other pasukim. The Tamei Tamei Yikra. Over there, it's talking about a person who's a Matzorah. It says he's supposed to call out that he's Tamei. He goes out of the machna, and wherever he goes, he's supposed to announce to people that I'm Tamei. Don't come near me. Tuma koralo v'omeres lo perush. The Tuma calls out and says, "Stay away." So just like the person is supposed to call out Tamei, so also we're supposed to make that the Tuma itself should call out. So if it's a person who's a live person, a Matzorah, he could say, "I'm Tamei, I'm Tamei." But if it's not, if it's a grave that doesn't have any voice to say I'm Tamei, so you're supposed to make that. He should be able to call out. How do you do that? You make a mark in the way that the marker is calling out, I'm Tamei, stay away. We had something at the end of Maseches Megillah also, the same name, Rabbi Yanai, Bar Breder, Rabbi Yanai Rabba. Interesting. I think Hamdava pointed it out at the time that Rabbi Uziel, the grandson of Rabbi Uziel the Great, like Rabbi Uziel Senior. So it's interesting how they have the same name. She said the same thing, that the Tumah is supposed to call out and say, stay away. The more is the problem on this drasha, that this drasha is used for something else. This pasuk Tamei Tamei Yikra has come to tell you to make a mark around the grave. You need this for different drasha. The Brisa says the Tamei Tamei Yikra. When a person has a problem, besides the pasuk that he's supposed to tell everybody that he's Tamei, But a person who has a problem is supposed to tell people that he has a problem in order people should daven for him. That the person who's a Masorah, besides being tummy, has a problem. He's a Masorah. So he should tell people that he has this problem and people should daven for him. This is the source where people, when they have a problem, they tell people that they should please daven. So you have the pasuk ready for that. So how could you use the pasuk for this new drasha that you make a marker for the grave? The answer is it could have said this point by saying one time V'tamei Yikra. Tamei Yikra would have told you that he should call out his problem. But the fact that it says two times, so there's room for the drasha that the grave also should call out that it's tumah and stay away. So we have already two psukim. One was in Yecheskel and one was this pasuk in the Torah.
But again, this sort of idea of Tzari L'Rabin, not talking about if you have a chol b'sach base that you go to a chacham.
This is something right. This is Rabbin. This is announcing it, right? The Gemara continues. Third Rasha. Don't put a stumbling block in front of the blind person. So too, the Kohen has to be careful for not becoming tamei. If you put a grave over there and he doesn't know that there's a grave, so you're making a michshol, making a halachic stumbling block. So also you have to clear that away. Different person. I should have been missing a word over there. That should have also been derech. The word derech is over there. Panu derech. That the word solu, some say that means to lift up the stones. Some say to press down. Whatever the point is, but it means panu derech. What?
Not to surround.
Solu? No. You're being so big. Solu. Solu is something else. Like Masila. The word Masila comes from this word. Masila means a path, either because you lifted away the stones or because you pressed it down. Solelu Bonet, they have the company that makes the roads in there. It's called Solelu Bonet. So Panu derech, clear the roads. What does it mean? Not only clear the roads from stones, clear the roads. But anything that's going to be a stumbling block. The grave is a stumbling block to the Kohen, and we're not allowed to become tamei. It's the same pasuk. Interesting how they use the same pasuk. Solu panu derech. Take away the stumbling block from my nation. So the Kohanim that are not allowed to become tamei, take away this tumah, or mark it rather. Rabbi Yeshua, a different pasuk that you should inform them of the road that they're supposed to go. So it's a drash. The pasuk means the path, doesn't mean the actual path, the literal physical path. It means that the way, the path and life that they should go. But the Gemara is dashing the path, that make sure which road they're supposed to go on. Go on this road, don't go on that road. If there's the Kohen has to know not to go on that road. Mazut Rama, a different pasuk. You should separate the word v'hizartem, not v'hizartem, v'hizartem. You should separate Bnei Yisrael from their tumah. So the Kohanim shouldn't become tamei. You have mitzvah to separate them from the tumah. The Rashi
came out to teach us
that you're supposed to mark the graves. Mark the graves. Everything is the same thing. Mark the graves that they should know that it's tumah. Rashi Amar ushmartem es mishmarti. Guard my watching. Watch my watching. What does that mean? Asum esmerish mishmarti. Make a guard around it means make fences and guards. So it's the halacha is just not to go on the tumah, but make a fence around it, and nobody should be michshol. V'vin Amar v'sam derech arenu v'yesh elokim. V'sam derech arenu v'yesh elokim. So place the derech. Rashi seems to say that show them that you don't need to end the pasuk arenu v'yesh elokim just for some derech. Rashi says for some derech osin siman ve'ezer derech yelchu. Make a siman to know which derech he's supposed to go. For some derech. I'm going to show him the salvation of God. For the pasuk, we're darshaning. We don't need the end of the pasuk. We just need the beginning. We just need the some derech. The end of the pasuk we don't need for the drasha. But now the Gemara is going to darshan. This is now a side point. You can put this in parentheses. The next Gemara now is going to say a drasha on this pasuk, which people are familiar with from Masilas Yesharim, but it's not relevant to our Gemara. Our Gemara, I think, finished all the psukim already. We finished all the drashas that you're supposed to make a mark on the grave that the Kohen shouldn't become tamei. So now comes the extra credit, a bonus. Amir B'Shul Ben Levi, Kal Hasham. There was a drash over here. The pasuk says V'sam derech, but we're going to read it V'sham derech. And the word sham sham means over there, but we're saying also the word sham is like shuma, to evaluate. A person who evaluates his path. Kal Hasham Chosav, a person who evaluates his path, that means that he thinks what he's doing. And he does cheshbon nefesh, is the right thing to do, is the wrong thing to do. He weighs his ways. He uses a scale. He evaluates his ways. He's going to see the salvation of Hashem. Hashem is going to help him. He's going to see, either it means that he's going to see the Gula Shlema, or it means that Hashem is going to help him. Shenema v'sam derech. That's what the pasuk says. V'sam derech. I'll take you v'sam ela v'sham. V'sham derech. If he evaluates his ways. then Avenu B'Yesh Elokim. So a person is this Mesil Shom brings us down beginning of the Zahirus, the beginning of the Sefer, that a person is supposed to be thinking what he's doing, to evaluate his ways, to balance, is this the right thing to do or not? Think. So this is the drash on the pasuk, V'sham derech Avenu B'Yesh Elokim, V'sham derech Avenu B'Yesh Elokim, V'sham that he does a shuma, he does an evaluation. The Gemara says a story of Yana, Ahu Talmida, T'chol Yom Havim Makshilei. Rabbi Yana had a student that he always used to ask him conscious. When he was saying the shir, he always had conscious to ask. But the Shabbat the Rigla Lava Makshilei. Shabbos of the regular means that's when, like the Shabbos of Gadol Drasha, Shabbos Shuvah Drasha, the whole tzibur came, and it wasn't only Talmidim. Then it was like the whole town came. Then he didn't ask any conscious. That's not the time to ask conscious. Rashi says on the bottom, Mishum Da'asikul Yalma Lapirka B'Makshilei B'Levi Matzi Lefuke Eva Mixif, that he shouldn't be embarrassed in public. When it's amongst the Talmidim, so they know the Rebbe doesn't know everything. That's okay, he's human. But he comes the drasha for the Hamonam, and the Rebbe doesn't know something, so then it's they get the wrong impression. They think, oh, he doesn't know. So he knew when not to ask. And Rabbi Yana was impressed with that Talmud. Kari Alei, Rabbi Yana said about that Talmud, he evaluates his ways. He knows when yes, when not. He thinks what he's supposed to do. He doesn't just say, here Rashi says, he figures out when's the right time. You have to think, even if it's a good thing to ask conscious, but you have to know when yes and when not. So we came out to the halacha that the Mishnah says you have to mark the graves, many drushes as Muslim to say that you're supposed to do that in order to keep the Kohen from becoming Tameh. Now we go on to the details of this halacha of marking the graves. Tana Rabbana. We only make the marker for something which has tumas ohel. So we know that there are different kinds of ways of contracting tumah. There's maga, masa, ohel. Maga means you have direct contact, you touch the tumah. Masa means that you carried it even though you didn't touch it, but you're carrying its weight. And ohel means that you're under the same roof, or you are what's the word? You're hovering over it, or it's hovering over you. That's tumas ohel. So you don't make the marker only for something which has tumas ohel. And therefore it says that a kazais ben ames, a kazais, size of an olive of the flesh of a mace. You don't make a marker. The Gemara is going to ask soon that doesn't make sense because the kazais ben ames does have tumas ohel. So that's going to be a problem. The Gemara is going to ask on these words that it doesn't seem to make sense because kazais ben ames does have tumas ohel. But the way the Brisa says, you don't mark a kazais ben ames and not on a bone, which is the size of a barley, and that has tumas maga. If you touch the blood, the bone of a dead man, a piece of a bone, even a small thing, the size of a sorrel, the size of a barley corn, you tame, but only if you touch it. It doesn't have tumas ohel. So therefore, they don't make a marker for it because it's only tumas maga. The law means that they'll bury it, but they're not gonna make a tzion on because no one's touching it. Even if he steps over it, it then become tame. But if it's going to be something which has tumas ohel, so then it's like a grave that he becomes tame even if he doesn't touch the tumah. So then you have to make a marker. The law
so these things are on top of the ground as opposed to.
Why isn't it not? No, you buried it. You buried it, but you don't make a marker because it doesn't have tumas ohel. No one's touching it. They're not gonna. If he's gonna start digging into the ground, he might touch it, but we don't make a marker for that. We just make a marker that he shouldn't walk over it and become tame. So etzem kisora is only mitame maga, not masa, not ohel. So there's no reason to make a marker. And k'zayis ben ames we have to come back to. It's going to be soon. Aval metzayin ala shedra, aval golgolas, al rov binyan, al rov minyan, ames. This is 4 cases where the bones do give off tumas ohel. If it's going to be a shedra and a golgolas, the back, the spine, or the skull, or most of the structure of the skull of the skeleton, or most of the bones, count up all the bones of a person, and if it's the majority of bones, there are 248 bones. So if you have, I think that's how it goes, 248, the Mishnah Ola says, and if you have robe of that, so that'll be enough to have tumas ohel. Only in these cases that they make the marker because they have tumas ohel. But if it's only going to be etzem kisora, so then it's not going to be metame bol, so there's no marker. Also, the Brisa says, ein l'sayin alavados. You don't make a marker if everyone knows that there's a grave over there. It's only if it's a suffix. The people don't know about it. If people know about it, you wouldn't have to. I mean, eventually it might get forgotten. That's maybe a question. But the Mishnah says, the Brisa says that it's only necessary to make a marker if people don't know about it. You have to warn them. But if everybody knows it's a famous thing, so then you wouldn't have to make a marker. They do make a marker on the things that are suffix, and it's going to tell you a list of sfekas. So the Brisa soon is going to explain what the Gemara is going to explain what these things are. Schachos sounds like a schach of some sort. We'll see right away. Pros means something is jutting out, and base of pras, that's going to be a sugi. These 3 things, schachos, pros, and base of pras is going to be a sugi coming up. But this is the example of the Brisa of things that are considered only a suffix, It's not a vada, and therefore you do make a marker. If it will be a vada, everybody knows about it, then it's no reason to make the marker. The Brisa continues more halachos about making the marker. You don't put the marker directly only directly on the tumah. Why? It's going to ruin the taurus. Why is that? So Rashi says because people are not going to realize that they came to it until they're already stepping on it. Then it's too late. A person, I guess the way the mind works, I don't understand it well, but it sounds like just because you see the marker, he won't register, or doesn't register until he's too close. So we make it a bit further than the actual tumah in order that
stop. If they're walking quickly,
they don't stop. So this way you have to have a little bit of a warning. So they don't put the marker directly on the tumah. They make it a bit further away that people should chop by the time they get to the
Further
marker.
away or further before?
What?
A warning before.
A warning before, not on.
Yeah,
I would have thought that you put a
afterwards
marker.
you
Everyone
would
sees the
turn out.
marker, whatever it is going to be
Depends what
white.
direction.
Yeah,
What
what direction? On the way to
You may be coming
Yerushalayim.
from either direction, so.
No, on the tumah itself, you have this on the ground, so you make the I think Sid that says that they use plaster in order that it should be the white marker, and they know that that's tumah. So then there's not a marker, it's not a sign. You're not putting signs. Maybe I wasn't clear. Marker doesn't mean you make a sign.
It's different than a grave.
It's a grave. Everyone sees a grave as a grave.
Yeah.
But this is
okay.
a small thing, whatever it might be a small that you put plaster. You would pour white plaster on it so people know that's tumah. So I would have thought that if you see that it's white, people know that it's a marker for some kind of tumah, a grave, or not a grave like a whole person is there, but what kind of ever tumah. But here it says that people don't notice it until it's too late. So make it a bit further away. Make it not on the tumah itself. Make it a bit further away. But it says don't make it too far away. Don't bring it too far away. Why is that? Fascinating concept that you're wasting place of Eretz Yisrael. A few feet that you're going to make it that's off limits because it's tummy. It's not really tummy. So you're not supposed to waste place of Eretz Yisrael. You're not supposed to. Maybe this has applications in other cases also. That every inch of Eretz Yisrael is precious, and don't make it inaccessible for no reason. That's the end of the brisa. So the Gemara goes back to the first problem that we said, because it says you don't make a tzion on K'zayis ben Ames because it's not Matami Boel. K'zayis ben Ames is Matami Boel. That's the Gemara's kasha now. K'zayis ben Ames is Matami Boel. V'atanan elu shematamin Boel. K'zayis ben Ames. A fresh Mishnah that the K'zayis ben Ames, even if it's a very small, a little bit amount, like the size of an olive, of flesh of a dead man, is Tumas Ohel. So how come it says you don't make a tzion? That it's true. It's true. But it's gonna shrink. If it's exactly, we're talking about it's exactly k'zayis. If it would be two k'zayis, you'd make a tzion, even though it's very small. But it's exactly a k'zayis. So when you're gonna bury it, it's not gonna be a k'zayis too much longer. Soon it's gonna shrink, disintegrate. It's gonna become less than a k'zayis. So therefore, mutav shisof olav truma b'kachim l'fisha val yisof olav la'olam. That it's better that even if someone makes a mistake, you don't make the tzion. And it could be that in the next day or two, a kohen will pass by, will step on it, they didn't realize that it became tameh. And you're gonna, if people realize you'll be burning, you'll be tameh to kachim, and they'll say that it's tameh. But if you're gonna make the tzion, it's much worse because then forever or for many years, it's gonna remain over their marker. And people, if they did touch it by mistake, the towers went over it, they would think that it's something they're going to burn it, and really it's not because it's already got less than this year. So we have a choice: either we can not make a marker, and then it's only dangerous for the next day or two, and then after that there's no tumah over there; it already got shrunk, and it's not going to be tumah, and then fine, everything's good. On the other hand, if we do make a marker, so then it's true that for the 2 days we were safe, but after that we're going to be matami towers for no reason. If the towers by chance is going to come on top of the marker, of course the marker is supposed to be that the tower should not come. But sometimes it happens that they do, and they're going to think that there's tumah on the writ, the balai tumah, and they're going to burn the towers, and really it's tumah because they're already the kizais shrunk.
Right.
So better not to make a marker and only take the chance.
Also,
of the 2 days.
Also, you mafsid the Eretz Yisrael. That's another thing. It's like he said earlier.
Very nice. Okay, good. I didn't think of that. The Gemara continues.
But obviously, if we don't make the markers, so we have a.
So we're in danger for a day or two
Right.
until it shrinks. That's true. But like the lesser of the two evils. That's what the Gemara seems to say. It's better to do this problem than to do the other problem. It's a bigger problem. But you're right. It's not foolproof. That it could be the next day or two, someone will pass over. He doesn't realize his tumah, and he'll become
I
tumah.
have an answer. They can make a temporary marker.
Why don't they make a temporary marker? I don't know the answer. or they should come after 2 days and take it away. I don't know.
This is a 2-day marker.
To put a date.
Yeah, for the day, yeah.
Okay, I don't know the
This
answer.
is valid until,
Then it expires. Okay, I don't know. The Bryson before said that you don't make a Sion on the Vadai, only on a suffix. And it said Elohein, Asfekas, Chachos, Pros, and basic cross. Now the Bryson is going to explain, the Gemara is going to explain what does that mean. Veluhein, Sfekos, Chachos, Pros, and it says a basic cross. So Chachos means even a Mesach Aloretz, and Pros means Avonim Pruos Ayotis Menagoder. So they explain to Mishnah and the Olas that if you have a tree that has many branches, and you know that Tumba is under one of the branches, but you don't know which. So all of them is called a suffix. That's called schachos. That tree, which is mesach, what's the good word for mesach? Hanging over, overhanging on the land. So, and the point is that you have, Tumba is only under one of the branches, and they're all separated in a way that the whole tree doesn't become tamei. If it will be like a thick tree, so then the whole thing is an oil, and the whole thing becomes tamei. But each branch is not connected to the next branch. And you know that the tumor is on one of the branches, but you don't know which one it is. So then you have to make a marker on all the branches to say this whole tree is a suffix. And
The mosach is what's
mesach is hanging over. There's a tree that's hanging over on the land, on the ground.
What is kind of making oil?
There's a grave or something, tumma on the ground, under one of the branches, but you don't know which one it is. So you make the marker under all of these branches that the Kohen shouldn't come because the tumma is under one of them. It's a suffix. So you make a make a marker under all of them. Pros is a similar idea. Avonim pruos ayotzes menagoder. Some take out the word avonim and they say it's talking about thorns and things, whatever, bushes. But whatever the point is, that you have the same idea, that you have different stones that are jutting out of the wall, let's say, and you know that the tomb is only under one of them. You don't know which one it is. So therefore, you make a marker under all of them. These are all considered sfekas. The base of pras was the third thing. It says chachos and pros and base of pras. So they take out these next couple of lines. They say it's a mistake. They say it's a tos at fus. That it's a mistake. We'll see it soon. Here it says something about if a grave was plowed over. So we'll come back to it. We'll come back to it in a minute. But let's skip to here. We'll skip from these words from base of pras. This we skip, and that whole line, and this whole line, and this line, and here. We'll continue from base of pras. If I could, maybe I'll mark it out just to show the gersa that they take out. They say it's a tos at fus even. They say it's like it's a bad mistake. They take out all this.
Even further on.
They take all that out. They say that it's, I think the Ritva says that's a tos at fus. It doesn't belong here. We'll see right away. We'll come back and we'll see that we know what it means, but it doesn't belong over here. The Gemara is a problem. Yeah, but the point is that's not going to be the base of pras we're talking about over here. It's not going to be the base of pras we're talking about. So we'll see in a second that there are a few kinds of base of pras. Well, we could jump ahead. We'll see right away. One is if there was a grave. You knew that there was a grave in this field, but it was plowed over. Somehow, whatever the case was, the grave got plowed over. So are you choshesh that the whole field might have bones that were scattered that were plowed over, and you have a piece of a bones that's all over the field. So you have to be choshesh that the whole field maybe for a certain distance, it says mea amma. You have to be choshesh that the plow might have dragged pieces of bones. That's the one kind of basic process. But the Gemara is going to say that for that you don't have to make a marker to say that this field is a basic process. Or basic process being matami boel. It doesn't have tumas oil. We said a second ago on the top of the page that you don't make a marker only for tumas oil. And the Gemara is going to say the basic process does not have tumas oil. The most of the problem is going to be is that maybe a piece of a bone was dragged, but it's only going to be small pieces of bones. It's not going to be a big bone. It's not going to be shedra of a gogola, binion. It's not going to be a big skeleton that was dragged out. So there's no tumas oil. There's only a question of tumas maga, that if you touch the bone, but there's no marker on the tumas maga, only on the tumas oil. Rav Yehuda Bar Ami Mishmei Ulama based on Rashi Nidashtor. It's only chash of touching the bone. There might be a bone that's a small piece of bone that you touch if you're going to walk on this field. So he says one eitzah is you're allowed to go through it. You could go, you get on all four, and you blow as you go along. You blow the dust to see and you can see closely on the ground. Your eyes are close to the ground. You can see if there's a piece of a bone, and you blow away any dust to see if is reveals any kind of a bone, and if not, you're allowed to go through the field, and you can even a Kohen, even somebody that's tohar, he's allowed to go through the base of pras if necessary, and he's not considered tamei because it's only a chash of tumas maga. It's not a chash of tumas oil. If it's an oil, then it doesn't help to go through. There's oil over there, but there's no chash oil. It's only a chash touching contact. So if he goes on all four and he blows his way through, he's surely not going to touch anything. So it's not a chash ohel. Rav Yehuda bar Ami says in the name of Kula, another Kula, base of prash and neither star. If a base of prash was trampled, means people walk through it. So the chash is a small bone, but once people trampled on it, so then any small bone is going to get crushed to less than the size of a saor. It's not going to be any piece anymore. It's already crushed, and there's no chash that there's any such bone. But again, you see from both of these things that it's only a chash of maga. It's only a chash of touching a bone that's the size of a saora. But there's no chash ohel. So if there's no chash ohel, you shouldn't have to have a marker.
But if he stands in it, is that called touching?
Only if, but you don't make a marker on a tumas maga, only on a tumas ohel. That's what he said on top of the page. You only make a marker on a chash of tumas ohel, not on a chash of tumas maga. So the Gemara says, "Omer Papa lo kasha kan besada shabbat bokever kan besada shenechosh bokever." You're right. There are two kinds of base of pras. Both of them are called base of pras, as the Gemara is going to say right away. There's a sada shabbat bokever. Abad bokever means that there's nothing about plowing. There's a grave someplace. Someplace in this field there's a grave. I don't know where it is. So then the whole field becomes a grave, becomes a base of pras. Means could be even on the Raisa level. You don't have to be choshesh for it. Maybe I'm not sure, but maybe this is called Yester Raisa. This is called Avad Bokever. I know someplace in this field there's a grave. I don't know where it is. So then there is a chash ohel, because wherever the grave is, it's a regular grave. It's matami bohel. So it's such a kind of a field. You do have to make a tziyun. You do have to make a marker. I guess it is the rice also, but it's a sada shenechvash bokever. That's called the base of pras. So then the grave was plowed over. There's no chash of oil anymore, because wherever the grave was, it was plowed over, and only chash is there'll be pieces of bones here and there. But then you don't have to make a tziyun. So that's why to take out the girsa before, that this whole girsa says base of pras, it says that that's the wrong thing. You have to take it out, because the base of pras we're talking about, the Gemara says right away, is not talking about achorish kever. It's talking about sadash avad bokever, that a field that a grave was lost in it, but not that it was plowed over. It's plowed over. You don't need a base of pras. So they say this is a mistake. This girsa they say shouldn't be. The Gemara is surprised that this word is a mistake here also. This is the Gemara changes it, and it's the he says that it's a mistake in the printer. Sadesha avad bokever base of pras karile means they're more surprised that if it's lost, a grave that was lost in the field, that's called the base of pras. The word base of pras, the more always understands it means what we said before, that it was plowed over. But sadesha avad bokever, the Gemara is surprised that that's called a base of pras. The Gemara thinks that the base of pras is referring only to a plowed over grave, not to a grave that was lost in the field. So now you're saying that this halacha that it says that you make a marker on a state base of pras, you're saying that's referring to a field which the grave was lost in it. Is that the way is that the way that you call a field that the grave got lost? You call it a base of pras? Gemara says yes, it's Persian Mishnah. Yes, it's a Mishnah. It's Mishnah and all this. Shlosha base of pras, saying there are three kinds of base of pras. Sadash avad never bokever, sadash nechash bokever, usnei bochim. These are the two out of three we had already. A field which the grave was lost in it, and that's one we're talking about, that there's a chash tumas ohel, and over there you have to mark the field that this is a suffix tumah. And sadash nechash bokever, that if there was a field where there was a plowed over grave, then it was said that it's only a chash of maga, of contact, and you don't have to mark it because there's no chash of ohel. And now we get thrown in also, this is extra credit, stay bochen. The Gemara is going to say right away what a stay bochen is. The world sounds like the field of crying. Why? What is that all about? So we'll say the words of the Gemara, and we'll say Rashi, and say a little different than Rashi. My stay bochen. What is a stay bochen? The place where they part from the mace, like they have the hesped, the funeral, and then they leave. And that's like a funeral courtyard, something like that. A better word for it, by the place where. That's called. So they would have it. Seems near the cemetery, and that's where they would come and part from the mace, and that's also called a stay. That's also called a base of pras. Rashi learns that this sadeh bochen is also tameh, and there's a chash that there's some tum over there. And the question, why should there be tum over there? They breed the mace and then they bury him. So why should they be in it? What's left over there? So Rashi has a harp shot that the Rishonim argue on. They say also it's against the Persian Mishnah. But let's read the words. With time Amai, what's the reason? Because the owners gave up hope. So what does that mean? So Rashi has a shot that's very difficult to understand, I think. Rashi says that when the people brought the mace from far away, so that's the place where they stop and they make the funeral, whatever, they paid them, and then the Chevra Kadisha takes further to bury him. And it might have been that some limb might have fallen off, and no one noticed it, and that's why it's got tummy. Hard shot. And also the Mishnah in Allah says beferish that the stay broken is tohar. It means Rashi learns into the Gemara, time of my wise tummy, and he says because he is Ralam Nagaba that everyone relies on the other one. That the people who brought the mace, they think that the Chevra Kadisha is going to take care of it. The Chevra Kadisha thinks that nothing's falling off, and they don't pay attention to the tumah.
But they do tachrichin, they cover the mess. Isn't that good enough?
Question is if something got forgotten, if some limb fell off.
So we
So-
can see it.
Yeah, so so it's a hard shot. And also the Mishnah says very that it's tohar. So they learn differently. That's not talking about tumah at all. It's just talking about that the halach is you're not allowed to plant that field. It becomes like dedicated to the cemetery, even though it's not. But since that's the place where they stop to make the funeral and hespedim, so it's also to plant. You can't plant over there. You can't make trees over there. You have to leave it open, usable. So like a meitzah shachziku b'rambam, that if a place became usable, but the tzibur started using a certain place, you're not allowed to close it off. So it has nothing to do with and yish bailam. What does yish bailam mean? Yish bailam means that the owner of the fields they gave up. And we can't use it because it became part of the communal property because they're the ones who use it. So it's nothing to do with tumah. I think this is the Ritva. The Rambam has another pshat, but they don't learn like Rashi. And also the Mishnah says beferish that it's not tumah, not pshat of tumah over there.
Can they now use that space for further burials?
I would imagine not. I imagine because it's dedicated for the hespedim. It's what they call this nowadays,
Beit
beit hespedim or something like that. So they used to be outdoors, but that's what so it's nothing to do with our subject about tumah. The Gemara goes further, but I think we'll stop here. We stop till Mishum Yish Bailam No Gubba.
Violin.
Mishum Yish Bailam No Gubba. Period. We'll stop over here, and to be continued Bez Hashem tomorrow.
Before you start, Rashi, Meshum Yushayim, at the end of Rashi says that the Makam from Makam Roch, Ndal the Laver of Nafal Sham,
Right.
this Yashu.
That the people they relied on each other. There were two people. One group brought the mace, another one is going to take it from there and bury it. So each one is relying on the other one, and they left it over there, and they didn't realize that there's some Abra fell off. But again, we're saying that we're not going like that shot because the Mishnah says first that it is tahor. It's against Rashi. Rashi says that the field is tummy because there might be an Abra over there. Besides that, the Metzias is difficult, but also the halacha is not like that. The halacha says in the Mishnah over there, the Ferish and all this, that the stay broken doesn't have tumah. It says you're allowed to use the earth over there even for kachin. It's not no chash tumah. It's just that it's dedicated for the beit has paid them, and you can't use it. No one can take it. So that's how they learn shah over here. So we learned today about everything. The first thing was about cleaning out the cistern, the public sewers, and we said that the halach comes out that for a yachid, if he does not need it for the moed, he can't do anything. If he needs it for the moed, chotetin, he can clear out the garbage. A tzibur, if they don't need it for the moed, they can be chotet, and if they do need it for the moed, even allowed to be chofer. That's the sugi before, and then about
These are roads, or this is in the city? It doesn't matter.
we said that it's a sewer pipe.
Oh, it's usually by the city, by Yerushalayim, maybe.
So nothing to do with the public, wherever they are. Sewer pipes. They can be.
Could be anywhere.
Yeah. And the next video we had was about the Tzion Kavaris. The Mishnah says that also part of the things that they do is supposed to mark the graves. Agav, the Bryce said before, they're supposed to fix the roads and take and also make sure the mikvahs are all kosher. And it's their responsibility. If they don't, it's their responsibility. And we brought many sources from the Torah and the Vim, a reference to the fact that you're supposed to make these tzionim to make sure that the coin doesn't become tummy by mistake. Agav, we had the drasha of some derech. For some derech, a person is supposed to evaluate his ways, and then Hashem will help him. He'll see the Yeshua of Hashem. And then we had the lachas about Tzion Kvaras that you only do it on something which has Tumah Sohel, and only on a suffix, not on a vadai, and not directly on the Tumah because it might be too late by the time he realizes it, not too far away that he shouldn't be mafsed Eretz Yisrael unnecessarily. It's nice but amazed, even though it does have Tumah Sohel, but it's going to soon shrink, and therefore not to make it permanently
It's
unusable.
borderline size and it's going to get smaller, therefore it's going to be Torah.
Right. So even though there's a problem for a day or two, but we rather tolerate that problem than tolerate that there should be unnecessary tumah for a long time. And as Chaim David said also to throw in that it's also taking away the use of Eretz Yisrael. Okay, and then we have schachos and pros, which means fakis. that you don't know under which branch is the tumah or under which jutting stone is the tumah. And as far as base of pras, there's a difference what kind of base of pras. A base of pras which was plowed over, there's no chash or tumas or along tumas maga, you don't make it sion. Only a sadeh she'avad bakever, that's also called the base of pras. That's the chiddush, that's called the base of pras, but the Mishnah knowledge does call it so. Over there, you do make a marker. And then the Mishnah Gemara twin, the end of the Mishnah already, stay broken is also called the base of pras, and that's no tumah at all, as the Mishnah says over there. But since it was became the property of the rabbin because they use it for Beit Beidim, so therefore you're not allowed to use it for anything else. Yesh Bailam, the owners, they gave up hope because it's a Meshach Zazik Bo Rabbim, also a Kalkala. We'll be back in there with the Hillim in a couple of minutes.
Just to let everybody know, 1 o'clock, Reb Shon Gold has yard sites. He's making them minyan for mincha, so everybody that can stay.
Then I think it'll be a small kiddush for not a meal or anything. That's a small kiddush for the siyum everybody made, and happy Tu B'Shvat to everybody. We should see Eretz Yisrael in its full glory, and Trumas HaMaasros starts a new year on Tu B'Shvat. Yashikov. We'll be back in a minute.
You see my name of tremendous amounts of rain in the last few weeks.
Okay, welcome everybody, welcome back. And I will close the recording.